Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, the Dwayne Perry. And I gotta share. I'm gonna tee it up just a little bit I'm just gonna share a little bit about why I'm so excited to be able to pick your brain. So for everybody listening, I've known Dwayne, 2009 I think is when we first met.
Yep.
So we played football together at Fort Lewis, and so it was a lifetime ago. I mean, literally.
I'm pretty sure we were our first roommates at the fort for football camp.
Yes.
Going in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Literally one of my first friends at Fort Lewis. I forgot about even when camp was starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so excited because, obviously I got to know you there and kind of the football setting side of things. Mm-hmm. But then it's been cool because our paths have sort of continued to cross. We were both members of the professional networking organization for a while, and I've seen you, building your own personal brand and chasing the personal training thing and all of these things.
Yep.
And I've also I've paid attention to you. I've obviously, we've stayed friends, and I follow you on social media and all of this stuff. And you're one of those guys that there's depth there. There's these other stories and these other elements to kind of your life and your approach to things. And so I just can't wait to pick your brain a little bit and get inside your head and hear more of your story. I think what would be cool to kind of get us started, if you don't mind, is kind of giving us some of the background of what brought you to, Durango and kind of your interest in personal training and that side of things. And then, and then we'll roll from there.
All right, so I will do my best to give a Reader's Digest version. Originally from Long Beach, California, so I'm a city boy, and moved out to Colorado my sophomore year of high school. Moved up into the Front Range area, and I think the biggest thing there was, I went to a high school of 4,000 students in Long Beach. And then moved to a high school of 350 at the time. We didn't have a stoplight until our senior year.
Crazy.
Of high school. So pretty much, first coming out here, I was like, holy cow, what is all this space? Is it nobody's doing anything out here? What is open space? That concept.
Yeah.
Couldn't even put it together. So, in a small town, just get into mischief, have fun, play sports, great time. And then in choosing colleges, Fort Lewis, was one of the few schools that said, I'm kind of a big safety. So they were one of the few schools that said, you can play safety, we can keep you at your position. But I came up here, my recruiting trip was during one of the biggest snowstorms I've ever seen here. 2000, might have been 2008, 2009. But I remember just the experience of what am I driving into? You're going up the Fort Lewis Road and it's icy all over the place. It's snow. I mean, the roads are kind of sketchy. And I'm I kind of like this. This is different. This is something I want to explore. I want to get more into. So picked Fort Lewis. I would say as a, freshman year, I was out. I would go from practice, from 2 to 4 or whatever, and then I'd go hit Raiders Ridge.
Yeah.
And just go hike 3 to 4 times a week. Just life is tough, but if I'm going to be, going through this experience, I might as well have something pretty to look at, something beautiful.
Right.
To kind of take the edge off a little bit.
We were talking off camera those days of, the early football days and sitting there at practice. I have so many core memories of sitting there stretching and, looking up at the San Juan Mountains and just thinking man, can't wait to get out there more. I'm curious that because that kind of ties in, there's a lot of stuff about your story that I'm excited to, dive into and learn more about. And a lot of it is actually your relationship with nature. So I'm curious, knowing that, we were kids and you're taking the time to go out and hike and spend the time in nature and things like that.
Yeah.
Knowing, and I forget where you said you were originally born.
Long Beach.
Long Beach, thank you. Transitioning from kind of the city life to then small town Colorado life, and then obviously mountain Colorado life after that. Were you raised always kind of having that nature mindset, or is that something that you discovered on your own?
I was raised, I'd say, full scale. Concrete jungle, like legit was wondering, like, are we actually going to run out of space for people to like live here? And then my dad always made it a point to give me that out there experience. So we were a part of the Four Seasons Black Ski Club in Los Angeles. So we'd go to Whistler, Canada was probably the best place we skied. Lake Tahoe, Mammoth Mountain, just the biggest mountain resorts on the West Coast. And I mean, I guess in the time I wasn't so observant of my different experiences. Yeah. I was just kind of there and just kind of maximizing, doing as much as I could. But it was always an element. My parents, even education wise, we lived in Anaheim at a time. And then I went to school. My mom would drive me an hour to go to school in Irvine, to go to a Montessori school and just have the higher education. So
right.
My parents always made it a point to give me kind of full scale and, go back with my cousins in South Central LA and just, hang out outside,
right.
Which is is not the common deal anymore.
Yeah.
And, outside's different in the city than it is here. I do think back, dang, if I had open space, where would my brain, I love it now, but as a kid, so I think I'm kind of making up for
a little bit of lost time, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I thought about it a lot with, I'm raising some kids right now, and I've been telling my wife, I'm laughing because I'm like, I wonder if they know how good they have it. There was the other day we walked out of my house and they're, we're sort of neighbors. We live in the same general area, but
yeah,
we walk out of the house and my kids go running up to our horse pasture where we've got the horses and then the ponies there, and they're climbing up, petting them, and I'm just sitting there watching. It's this most picturesque, moment of the sun setting, the kids are running, they're gonna go pet the horses, and I'm like, I wonder if they have any clue how good they have it. And then I was talking to my wife that night, and I was laughing because I'm like, they're probably going to all move away and go to the city.
Because that's what Durangos do.
but there is something about that, having a fresh, you appreciate it more because you didn't have it, early on in your upbringing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious because since college, I've seen, and one of the things I'm excited to talk about is you intentionally did some pretty broad and extended traveling. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things I'm excited to kind of learn from you about, because when I've been just kind of observing your journey, it seemed to me like there's kind of been this always, I don't know if self-discovery is the right word for it, but that you've been pursuing things and experimenting with I don't know if it's
I'm trying to figure out
the recipe for happiness or these fulfillment things or whatever, but I've watched you kind of experiment with stuff or test, traveling to different cultures or
just doing out of the box you wouldn't think. Yeah, just kind of out of the box experiences.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Where has that, tell me about that curiosity, or what has sort of, driven you to travel the world and to do the things that you've done?
Great question. So I think most simply to answer that question, in a box, and I'll keep going. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given was, okay, book A tells you do this and you will die young. Book B says do the same thing and you will die, or you will have a longer life.
Of course, right.
Same thing. One says you're going to die early. One says you're going to live a long, healthy life. What do? You read both and figure it out for yourself. That's the ideal way of approaching the way you process your experiences. So, I guess in hindsight, living in the city and just having this kind of just city experience and then traveling all the way out to the country and having this country experience. Just that situation kind of put me into like, man, there's, totally different ways of looking and living through life. So I don't think there's any planned part of it. I think just my life has took me in such extremes that I kind of like looking to both sides. And as soon as I get to an extreme, I'm like, I think I'm good here. I think I'm going to float right back to the middle of the road and start, just looking both ways.
Right.
It's just, it's been a contrast, a weird contrast, and finding the value in all of it.
Yeah. And in pursuit of what? Of a lifestyle that's going to stick, of a belief system, of, health and wellness, any idea?
All the above. I would say I grew up an only child, so in my head a lot, and things. I guess that's a real tough question to ask or to answer. Brain fire. I don't know.
Which is totally okay. Yeah, because it is interesting to think about the contrast that you got to experience, in a living environment. Go ahead.
So I guess maybe too broad of a question, because there is the spiritual component. Growing up in the church, going to church 3 times a week with my grandma, my mom falling out of the church, me kind of picking up, full speed ahead, and having my own experiences with the church that kind of make me say, why is that way? What about those people over there? I guess we went over geographical, from experiences like just being, a huge, put on the table, just black dude in the middle of Erie, Colorado at high school.
Right.
Just making friends. Like, of course, having sports made it easier to make friends, but I'm not a big partier, and which is one of the reasons I left Fort Lewis, because there was an okay culture with losing and just going out and forgetting about it, and that just irked me to the core.
Yeah.
And I think not fully investing in, let's say, the athletic jock culture kind of makes me, I was a part of the yearbook club in high school. I'm not sure what makes me like that at the moment.
Right.
But it's just been every time I get to an extreme, like I say, I've always been, my number one dream was to go to the NFL. And I kind of got to a point where it was taking away from my just enthusiasm for life.
Yeah.
That
there's more out there. Other things worthy of pursuit.
I wonder, and sometimes being an only child, I don't have ideas to bounce off of. I don't even know where I'm coming with these thoughts. Sometimes I feel crazy just, reading and just being in my head. But I would say, and it's, I think an important thing to talk about, I've dealt with suicidal thoughts throughout my life. And it's man, if I get to that point, I would rather just live, do nothing and live, than try and chase this dream and be questioning life. What is all this for? Just, fuck, this is a lot. Excuse me.
Right.
Can I cuss on this? Yes. I'm going to try and moderate. Well, I'm a strength coach.
This is a safe place.
God, to
cuss, yeah.
So it's, I'll kind of just innately feel like this is taken away from my life force. This isn't.
Do you think that's almost because you were, I don't know if it was maybe that there was too much focus on that goal of, going to the NFL or whatever it might be, or if there was value attached to that, that could have negatively impacted the the self-esteem and, you know, the suicidal ideations or whatever kind of came. Do you think that maybe that contributed to sort of the broadening of perspectives and experiences? I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't think so. I think it was getting to a point. Shoot, I keep losing my train of thought, Ben. I think it was. Sorry, ask. What was the question again?
The sort of the pivot away from.
Oh, like a direction.
Yeah.
So I guess the thing is, I've always taken a mastery approach. So like the everything involved with accomplishing goals. I'm a goal guy, so those skills are there. I think it's honestly when I get to a point, and I think it's best if I use an example, but I think a lot of the things that we've been set up to like chase for just don't do it for you.
Yeah. Like we're chasing the wrong things.
Yeah. Like it just, I would get close. I would be doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. And then it's like, why is that not doing it for me? And then, you know, certain experiences, it's like, you know, I'm all in on this experience and it's just bringing just a crappy life with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell me, so there's, cause I want to hear more about like, you know, the travels and the things that you had to experience. Cause I think it's really cool for everybody listening. One of the things that I think is so cool about your story that I haven't had a chance to like, you know, ask you about or pick your brain about, but you traveled for a long time to a whole lot of different places and by yourself, right? In completely solo.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And then there's two parts of it. We touched a little bit about it, you know, off camera that I really want to dive into what those experiences were like. But before we do, can you kind of give us the overview, kind of the backstory of your solo world travels?
Yes. So, man, why the hell? My dad keeps asking me, like, what are you doing going to these places? And it's the adventure of it all. It's the unknowing. So when I transitioned from strength coaching at Fort Lewis to personal training, I wanted to give myself a sabbatical. I wanted to like transition and kind of explore. I was hitting the burnout. I was hitting like, you know, what am I doing? Is this the way I'm going to go? So I guess, I don't, you know, Reader's Digest version. I was training at the fort, you know, getting to the gym at 5 a.m., not leaving till like 6 p.m., you know, waking up early, figuring out all these things to be the best coach, just doing everything that I was supposed to do.
Doing the formula, yeah.
Yep. And I was hitting this point, like, you know, waking up in the day, like, can I get through this day? Like, is there anything I can do to not go through this day? Figuring out, just battling with, how do I get through these long days? I'm not going to be able to sustain myself at the pace I am. So I started doing video or guided meditations on YouTube. And I would, you know, I'd do laundry for all sports too. So I'd, you know, get in the laundry room, close the door, put my feet on a chair and just do a 15, then 30-minute guided meditation and kind of playing with those principles. And it made like the difference, like those times to just settle down. And as I say, you know, if you got a snow globe, just let the snow settle.
Let it settle, yeah.
It was doing it for me. I was like, okay, this is like something I need.
Figuring something out, yeah.
Yeah, in the process of where I was trying to go. So that got me into Buddhist culture. Been into Christianity, been a Christian pretty much all my life. And these principles of meditation, of your chakra centers, of just a different method of spirituality really fascinated me. I was reading all the books and, you know, I said, okay, with this opportunity, let me go to some of the original places of Buddhist philosophy, or just, as high of a training, high of a culture immersion that I can find.
Yeah.
So I did some research on, the oldest temples in the world. Thailand has one of the oldest. I think they go by like the 5,000-year-old temple. So there's a meditation center that's donation based only, right next to this temple, and it's just in this beautiful place. So I said, hey, I'm gonna go, study Buddhist culture. I'm gonna go see these temples. I'm gonna go learn from monks that do this their whole lives. Like, I don't want, external sources kind of pushing me different ways.
Right.
So I said, all right, I'm gonna go to Thailand and learn Buddhism. And Thailand just happened to be the #1 tourist destination and party destination in the world. So I partied my freaking ass off and then did like the most spiritual meditation retreat.
Speaking of dichotomy,
I hit both sides of the scales. So, from one, hit Thailand when I was 27, and in 2017, I think, did the kind of Buddhist culture. And then just this last year, I was out in Peru. And, Machu Picchu, just so many historical, I almost say it's the energy of being in the land. Just like some of the tours I did out there, I'm like, I don't want a guide. I don't want someone kind of directing my mind on how things go. I kind of just want to be here and feel it, and let that try and just feel that environment as much as possible.
It's crazy. So I think you know this. You reminded me of while you were telling that. We even went to church a few times together in college. So it's all coming back. But but I was raised Mormon, and my parents for a long time do these humanitarian trips over in India, and Buddhist culture has had a huge impact on them too, which is kind of an interesting, I don't know, something interesting there of just, it's their story to tell, but has a lot of, I think, really, really positive impact on opening up their minds, new perspectives, and, a lot of these things of just like exploring, different belief systems and different, different cultures and things like that. So it's fascinating because, there was a similar sort of, experiences there to get to see some of that stuff. One of the things that I want to hear about is you did while you were traveling, I believe it was 21 days, three weeks, right?
Yes.
Of silence.
Yes.
So, meaning you didn't speak one word for 21 days?
So, I did not have a conversation.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So, this temple that I found, lifelong monks run the whole deal. You wake up at 5 a.m., and you do chants. So chanting was the only form of verbalization.
Verbal expression, yeah.
That was there. So it's kind of in the sense of just a community, everybody harmonizing.
So there's a lot of people there doing this?
Yeah. There was
hundreds, dozens?
Probably 20-ish people at a time.
And it's like a structured, you're there for the silence retreat?
What's interesting is it's open. So, I was, my first day might be someone's 7th day, and, everybody's kind of in a different place.
Okay.
But you have a specific monk that, if you decided to stay 5 days, he'll space that out. If you do 21 days, he'll space that out. So they have someone there for you to guide you. But the most general thing, so, you wake up at 5 a.m., you have, I think, a meal at 7 a.m., and then you have one more lunch at like 11, just light meals, and then you're free for the rest of the day. They teach you the principles that you're going to work with. So you have a one-on-one meeting with your monk early in the morning. He teaches you, okay, first you're going to focus on this part of your body. Then you're going to do these 2 points on your body. Then you're going to, increase it to 17 different points on your body. You're not going to be able to feel this point on your body yet, but through the practice, you'll be able to tap into that.
Wow.
It was learning walking meditation combined with sitting meditation. The way I say, within my training, which I love, I got type A meditation down. If you cannot sit down and like figure this out and just, sit with thoughts, there is a walking meditation.
Yeah.
There are principles of meditation that they help you, like they give you methods, but it's also principle based. So it's like, okay, I see what you're doing there. That's going that direction. But the core of it is here, and I'm just going to stick in this core.
Right.
It's kind of has guided all my strength training to, principle based. There's different methods, the in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. It's all, the way I say meditation, I'm kind of running here, but, if your mind is a boat on the ocean, the only thing meditation is your anchor to keep that thing from drifting too far. And that anchor is always your breath. Or it's it's pretty much principle based. It's always your breath. So it was... What I find lacks nowadays is, I want to teach you this method and teach this method and use this, but it was principle. It was so simple. Depending on who you are, there were people who would go have conversations like, hey, how you doing during this? There were groups that would talk. There were groups that were deep into it. There were, the solos that are just doing their own thing. The couples there. It was free enough for you to explore how you're going to integrate this. It wasn't like, every part of the day you're doing this or learning that. It was just like, here it is, work with it.
Where did you fall into that? Were you like all in, or were you, where did you, and what was your approach in terms of the, how strict were you?
So this will lead perfectly into probably our next story, but, I was solo, so I was pretty okay with like being away from the rest of the group. If anyone was talking, I would kind of do my own thing, and I had intentionally set up to do a fast during this.
Well, they happened at the same time?
It was one of my first long fasts.
Oh, there's more than one.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get there.
I worked up to that.
Okay.
So the trip part about it was like, I don't know if you see those videos of like monks walking like straight up like rock walls. Like there were at least like 300 stairs that you needed to get to from your dorm to like the place where we meet at. So it was a fairly strenuous kind of like environment.
Right.
But I decided to do a 5-day fast during that time. So like just go as deep as I could into it my own self. So instead of eating just twice a day, which was like soup and rice, which wasn't a lot, I just didn't eat for 5 days. Just kind of allowed myself to feel what that was like, see what was going on.
Do you have social media? Do you have entertainment? You're on your own, in silence.
Yep.
Fasting.
No
technology. Generally, yeah.
No technology, no nothing. The technique they'll tell you to use is start with 5 minutes of walking, 5 minutes of sitting. Then once you get that down, 10 minutes.
And so you're basically just existing, like being present, just being there.
Almost practice, like how long can I sit and not do anything? And then once I got to a point like, fuck, I'm done with this, just go out and walk in the wilderness.
And go see things and let the mind wander and
then come back and do it all over again.
What was it like? What was it scary? Was it sad? Was it joyful? Like walk me through how it felt.
Yeah, it was specific. So, what do you do? I can only speak for myself. It was, how long am I going to practice this? Okay, I practice from 1 to 5 p.m. I'm intentionally not on my phone. I'm intentionally just allowing myself to process. I don't know if this answers your question, but like they kind of give you a list of things. And in my dorm room, there was a hole in the wall. So these ants were like piling through my dorm. And I was like, whew, is this a test of patience, God? Like, I do not like insects in my like, and their rule is like, don't kill anything, like just exist with it. And I kind of found myself just breathing through. I want to trap these ants. I want to get them out of my freaking room. But just
So trust the principle. Just
trust the process. So for myself, it was only a difficult thing on how many sets and reps I would do. Whether I would do 3 sets at a time of 45 minutes sitting, 45-minute walking. Would I do, 5 sets, keep going deeper? Would I say, okay, 1 and I'm done? It was kind of, it was difficult. And there were many times where, you kind of have to let yourself just rest. The trip part about it, they don't want you just sleeping the whole time. A factor of it is using meditation to override those sleep factors.
Right.
So, kind of recognizing I guess it exposes how you use your energy.
Yeah.
And you really have to be smart about
what you give your attention to and how you use your energy. And
yeah, because you can feel that meter go down. Like, it's you are very in touch with everything going on. I'm very intentional because you don't have a lot.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm cut out for something. That seems tremendously challenging to me.
Start out with, one day. That's
and I see though the value in that. Like you have to sit with yourself. Like there's no distractions. There's no escaping it. Like you're forced to sort of like, I don't know, get to know yourself a little better or be with yourself. That's a little bit scary.
It is. Because, it's success principles. You're feeling like crap today. Who cares? Tell yourself you feel good and figure it out.
Right.
But when you don't have those obligations, I don't feel good today. Well, I don't feel good today. What am I going to do about it? Like, am I going to sleep? Am I going to, go on a walk? How am I going to process that? Like, yeah, just sitting with, if you carve it out, you're going to figure something out about yourself.
Yeah, because you can't distract from it. Like right now, it's funny, and I don't know if it's good or a bad thing necessarily, but I'm a very driven guy. Like I'm a hard charger. I'm chasing dreams. Like I got a lot going on. And sometimes though that's a bad thing because if I'm not accomplishing something, I start to feel bad about myself. Like I've tied my self-worth to my accomplishments, and I know that's not healthy. But sometimes if I'm not feeling good, I'll just go accomplish something.
And
that. And I'm like, hey, I gotta, get a new client today or whatever. I gotta go and run fast or run far or accomplish something. And I wonder how I would react without that. Like if I didn't feel good about myself today, and there's no measurement of success, there's no like accomplishment to go get. You have to just like sit and process it. That scares the heck out of me. But I see how dang powerful that could be too. I think that's. So are there parts of that experience that have now you implement into your, whether it's your training or just, your normal life now, like things that what did you take away from it?
Yeah. And the cool thing was it was an experience where the further away from it I got, the more it landed.
Oh, interesting.
So, I'm just practicing, and then putting it to use in my daily life. I still, if I got stacked days, I'm going to do at least, 3 minutes of sitting, 3 minutes of walking, up to 15 minutes of sitting and walking meditation. That's still in my repertoire.
That's still a normal thing for you.
Yeah, in my morning routine. I used to try and push it longer until I got to a point where I was kind of, it's not for time. It's just carve it out for yourself. And, a 3-minute prayer is just as good as a 30-minute,
right.
Just sit and meditate. So one, in my morning routine, that's in there. And more effective as the years go by. And then 2, for training, like I said, principle based. After learning how that was taught, and my master's is in education, so I look at how you teach. So within my teaching methods and practices, there's so much stuff out there. My claim to fame is keep it simple. I got 3 practices that go for everything. I'm principle based. And if you want to do different methods, you're open to that. Just stick to these principles. So it's guided, it's crafted how I teach, number 1. And then also I force meditation within my workouts.
Yeah.
There's no meditation better than forced meditation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
integrated.
It's most of the reason I run is for my mental health. I mean, the physical health is definitely a great perk to it, but running for me is meditative. And I'm not, I don't have like the formal training that you have behind it or anything like that, but I can relate to that in a big way, because especially when I'm running the long big distances.
Yeah.
I mean, that 100-miler that I ran in March, if it weren't for the mind, I mean, my body gave out halfway. The mind carried it the second half for sure. And there were parts of that definitely where like I had to almost get into a meditative state to keep moving.
So 2 questions. First off, actually, I kind of want you to come back to like what is going through your mind, mile 10, 20, 30, 50. And I'm also curious, why do you choose to run for so long?
Same reason you did 21 days without talking. Different versions of the same story, man.
Touche.
Different chapters of the same book.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of it's that journey of self-discovery too. Of trying to figure out the things that make me happy, and like learning about myself. Learning what I'm capable of, and how strong I can be, and that experience for me, it's interesting. Like you said, that the further you get away from it, the more it's landing. Same with that. Like it's taught me so much about life, and being who I am, and all of these great takeaways. And it's also sort of like taught me that I can do way more than I thought I could. So gosh, so many, but the short but honest answer is the exact same reason why you did the 21 days of, same reasons for all of that stuff. But the mind side of it varied. Gratitude was one thing that carries me a long way, especially when the running gets painful. Like I found that being intentional about a gratitude mindset, it's crazy how that can like vanish the pain and the distance and whatever. Like when you're just thankful that you're there, and like one of the coolest things about running ultras is that there's these remote aid stations, and they're all volunteer based. So middle of nowhere, and there'll be a pop-up tent with a couple of volunteers in it with candy and chips and soda and icy hot or whatever you need,
fuel.
And in thanking them, it's amazing how much that fuels me. Like if I'm like, gosh, thank you guys so much for being out here, this is so cool, appreciate it, all of a sudden it's like I can keep going. So gratitude's is a huge one for sure. And then but gosh, probably a lot like in a 21-day retreat, the mind goes all sorts of places. Good places, bad places, happy places, all over the place.
And just,
How did, I want to hear about the fast too. So there was a series of extended fasts you mentioned that accumulated in 10 days.
Yes, of straight water. I had tea one day, day 8.
So you did a water-only fast for 10 days. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
So
first, wait, why?
Well, to be concrete, coming out of a relationship, major breakup, world just fell apart. I've already been strong and buff and all that stuff. So what haven't I focused in? Nutrition. So what, I am fairly healthy by most standards. And
Second strongest guy in the room, as I like to say.
Yeah. It's I kind of crossed that bridge already, pushing my body in the physical sense. And this has kind of been a journey of, instead of doing more, try doing less. So
that's foreign to me.
Yeah, it's a hell of a deal. So I kind of want to throw this in here. My mentor said, what's the best nutritional advice you can give? I asked him that, and he said, listen to that voice in your head. The more you listen to it, the more it'll talk. The less you listen, the less it'll talk. You could take that any direction you want. So I start, nutrition. If you told me to think about nutrition, say I can't afford it, and keep going about my business. I'll lift weights. So it was such a territory that I hadn't explored. I just took it to the extreme.
We're coming to the same clock.
I, going through, just got out of a relationship, and told myself, I carved out, I was supposed to go to Peru, actually, and do this ayahuasca retreats, but there were riots happening out there. So I said, I don't want to mess with any of that. I'm just going to stay here. But I had this time carved out from work. So I just cut everything out. It was, being okay. I start to wonder, 6 a.m. workouts from football, just pushing yourself to the max. Do you miss the sleep involved? Can your body catch up from the lack of sleep? And I guess one of the major things that I kind of had to sit with was how tired I was, and allowing myself to rest. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because when I did, let's say, first couple of days you're dealing with rumblings, and I've staggered this out. I started with stop eating at 7 p.m., don't eat again till the next day at 7 p.m. Then 3-day fast, then 5-day fast, and then 10 days. I wanted to go 14 or maybe 21, but I was kind of looking over the fence at the extreme side and say, I see where this is going. I'm fine here.
This is far enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was getting some things that I would never have guessed. So one, just sleeping, and being okay with that. It's really okay when you don't have work and you haven't eaten anything. It was kind of the best way to curve the appetite.
Right.
So I allowed myself to rest, which was awesome. My body needed it. I still think it needs it. And everybody, that's a whole deal. Then it got to the point where I was losing weight and I was accessing more memories. Something that I've never heard before is when, as I was losing weight, it was almost like the weight is a protection mechanism to just cover your holistic self with some protection. Once I started losing that weight, I started having memories from my childhood, memories of just development that I was like, how come I've never thought about this before? And it was tough. I'm like, I kind of don't want to have access to some of these things. It's problematic. And I would talk with my parents and kind of ask some questions and, scratch some scabs that don't want to be scratched. So it was kind of taking me into a realm of holy cow, do I want to process what's going on here? And then I got to the point where I allowed myself to rest and kind of restore. And then I had way too much energy. So day 5, 7, and 8, I ended up doing workouts just to kind of get rid of some of my energy so I can sleep during the night. So as I was getting deeper and deeper into myself, I was getting the energy, Needed less sleep, was just had more access to my brain, just, my physiology. And it was, I'll say week 8, I had kind of a scare. I was alone by myself, out in the boons. And I was like, I don't think I can breathe right now. Like I'm thinking about my breath. So I kind of had a little panic attack night 8, and just ended up giving myself some. I think I put, I know I put cayenne pepper and maybe, I forget, some type of green leaf in there, and just some cayenne pepper because I knew if I start sweating, it'll get me breathing.
Right.
And did that, was okay. That kind of took the edge off. I'm like, oh, this is just a panic attack. Like, I'm fine. And then day 10, I was like, yeah, I've lost 30 pounds in 10 days. I'm kind of, processing things. The main thing was I wanted to give myself time to like figure out what was going on there before I went out into the world and went back to work. So I kind of allowed mentally, physically, like give myself that almost, not detox, but retox.
Like transitioning back to reality or normal living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was scary also because my energy was at such a place that I could feel other people's energies like a lot. And it was an issue because like people are, we're all jacked, and sometimes you don't know if you're jacked or not. And,
right.
I was kind of at a point where I don't like feeling everybody
Interesting.
Like I was.
So a couple of questions on that, because I want to hear more about like the, sort of the takeaways and all of that, but walk me through the desire to do it in the first place. You talked a little bit about like the life stage change with the, the breakup and things like that, but was it a motivation from a physical perspective? Because I've heard people talk a lot about that there's potentially some really cool cancer benefits to long-term fasting and, the physical side of things. Were you approaching that more from a physical health perspective, a mental health perspective, a spiritual health perspective, or all of it? But like entering a 10-day or a plan for even longer fast, I have to imagine there's got to have been a pretty captivating why, a reason behind it. What was that?
Simple. Like I said, the physical, the doing. How do you come to do less? I guess
because go ahead.
I mean, looking at this world, doing more was not cutting it for me. So I think it's like a simple answer, but I've been kind of playing with this philosophy of how, like, I'm so confident in my ability. How little can I do and still be okay? It's like, who does that?
I'm fascinated with it though, because I lack rest. I definitely lack leisure and rest and, allowing myself to like do less, so to speak. And so I think it's an interesting, and then we laugh because you took it to the extreme, which is true and comical, but there's, I think it's a fascinating thing to explore, because I have yet to have the courage to explore it, how doing less might impact
everything.
Yeah.
How people see you, the ability to know that your clientele will be fine. They will, if you, love what you do, you probably have built a relationship. Like, my clients are totally, they know the deal. I'm not telling myself I need to get this done for this. I would burn myself out, stay up all night just to get this done for this one person. I know that'll help everybody else, but get it done. It's a tricky game.
Yeah.
It's other people's expectations, my own expectations. I like to say it comes with a supreme confidence of I'll be okay.
Yeah. what a freeing feeling. That'll be okay. You know, like doing more, doing less. Like if you can know that you're going to be all right either way, freeing is the best word I can think for it. But, you know, lightening, like removing pressure and, you know, all those things. Because, yeah, like I said, I have yet to find the courage to try to do less. I would love to someday. So it's something I'm going to, you know, something I'm keeping on my mind for sure.
It's so opposite. It's one of those things I almost say I never heard, but it's I would say from the type A, I know I can do it. I know I can get it done. I had looked over that fence, and then I said, hold on, what's across that fence?
Right.
And this is, you know, I'm 33, I'm single, I don't have, you know, responsibilities to attend to. So I can do this exploration. Like I do see myself as a trailblazer. Like, you know, if I'm going to impart any advice, I am going to take it to the extreme. I'm going to tell you what you're going to run into before you run into it.
Right.
Because I've lived it multiple times. So that's, you know, it's something I want to do. Like the goal is 30 days. For years, I started fasting, I want to say in 2013, and just worked my way up. And 30 days is the goal.
It's crazy.
Actually, 40 days is the goal. The Bible, you know, Jesus did it. I can do it.
And so it's such a fascinating approach that you have on life with some of that stuff, like being the trailblazer or being willing to experiment and like try new things and kind of have, I mean, honestly, what it is an extreme open mind, you know, and like the willingness to test and try and see what works. Do you have any idea? Is your family like that? I mean, like, is that any idea where that came from, or that sort of like, I don't know, that confidence to explore and test and try and trailblaze? Any idea where that came from, or is that something that you dug up on your own?
Good question. I am way outside the box from most of my family. Once again, you know, sometimes it's a crappy answer, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I'd ask the same thing with yourself. Like, where do you get you from? Like, right. You know,
nature or nurture? The $1 million question.
And it comes with a price. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, just currently I'm looking at these LA fires. I'm looking at, we don't have enough snow. I'm, you know, and I'm reading about the world, and it's like, I just had a talk with a mentor, and it's like, man, think less. Stop. Like, I care. Yes. You're going to put yourself in a knot if you keep thinking so damn much. Just have some fun. Like, just relax.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, sometimes I need someone to tell me, stop thinking so much.
Right.
So it's and that same, you know, gusto is what takes me to the point of like suicidal ideation. Like,
right.
You know, how far do I want to take this thing?
The extremes, yeah. Do you feel like you're figuring out a formula, like a balance for yourself to, you know, because we've talked about these themes of extremes, you know, whether it's the city or the country, or, you know, silence or noise, or doing too much or doing too less, or party, you know, the retreat, you know, these kind of extremes. Through that, have you found, you know, a formula or a balance or things that you're implementing in your life that are working for you and that are kind of like, you know, where all that meets?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. It you know, being too good at my routine, you know, I'll start to hit my head on one wall, and then, you know, allowing myself to drink and just not do a damn thing, you know, hits my head on another wall. So let's just call that the fun part.
Yeah.
There are principles that keep me. I do feel better when I meditate. I do feel better when I'm working out. At the same time, those don't. There's still more that I need. There's still more that I'm curious about. Yes and no, Ben.
Tell me about that. More that you're curious about.
More health and nutrition. So, not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but what do we made? We're 60%. I hate to use percentages and statistics and all that, but we are the genetic makeup. We are 60% similar. We have the 60% similar genetic makeup as a banana and a fruit fly. We have 94% genetic makeup, similar genetic makeup to a dog. We have 98% genetic makeup to a chimpanzee. So by science, they say if you have 95% correctness, that counts. We'll push you through, FDA, all that stuff. Well, if we have 98% similar, genetic makeup as a chimpanzee, scientifically, wouldn't that check the box? Like if a chimp has a cold, we'll take the same medicine and be fine. There's, disparities in health that are honestly hard to find. Like you honestly have to, I think it all started just simply when I went to Colorado State, took a nutrition class. The teacher's telling us like, yeah, this was it 3 years ago. It's a little bit different now, which is why I've never messed with nutrition. The pyramid was the standard. Well, why was the pyramid implemented? To keep these industries,
Don't even get me started on the food pyramid.
What are they taking out of our food? What are they putting in the food? This nutritional realm has been interesting to find the things that are hidden.
Yeah.
And all right, you can't eat any, based off all the bad stuff in food, don't eat. Just stop.
Yeah.
Live off water and air. Even if water's jacked up.
Right. You should start hunting. You should start big game hunting with me. It's the best way to get food.
Ben, I got through those ants in my dorm room and I didn't kill a single ant.
Has your perspective on killing things changed since then? Would you hunt now?
I see the necessary, I see the control of pests within there. There were rats that got into my car. I killed those motherfuckers. So to that extent, I could not see myself going to hunt outside of unless something encroached on my well-being.
Unless you had to.
Unless I had to.
Not in pursuit of food even?
No.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I'm working towards being a vegetarian full time, but I'll still have Sirius Texas on Saturday. It's God dang Sirius Texas.
Dangerous.
Get the shit. So I'm kind of doing it my way. I don't eat meat a lot. 6 days out of the week I don't eat meat.
Right.
And that's okay for me. Yeah, I'm
See, this is why it's so fun to pick your brain, because you're so you're you. You know what I mean? You can't, you don't fit into any stereotype, any group, you're so, and I think a lot of that's probably come from these explorations. The extremes and seeing the things that that work for you. A lot of times, because I wonder sometimes, we all get raised certain ways, or, certain cultures or religious backgrounds, or, whatever. And you kind of do the thing that everyone did else because that's what we do forever, and we just kind of stay And then there's guys like you that just break the mold completely, you know, throw it out the window and try these different things. And I just think that I think there's something so cool about that. Like your open-mindedness and your willingness to figure out what works for you, you know, as an individual. I wonder if, you know, if more people should, I wonder what it would be like if more people had the courage to do that, you know, to explore and like figure out the things that work for them, knowing that it's different for all of us, which is what makes being a human so cool.
I mean, it's the trade-off of like space. Like, what's it like having 3 children and you are doing all this stuff? I mean, so you carve out time to go run and you're better off with that.
Right.
But before you started doing that, how the hell did you get through your day? Like, is having children, like, it just X's out some of the process, like the doubts, and you just have to do it, like responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, that component of it for me definitely has changed. Well, yes and no. Having kids has definitely heightened my desire to be the best version of myself. So there's like this, being a little bit selfish about it in a selfless way, like to do it for the greater good, you know, to raise a family. Like I've got some responsibilities like that. I mean, a lot of it, you know, running 100 milers, even, for example, I'm doing it for myself. Don't get me wrong. Like that's for me for sure. But a great benefit of it is that I get to show my kids that they can do big stuff, like that they are limitless. Yeah. And it's one of the coolest things is like I want to raise my kids to be open-minded, like you know, having the courage and the ability to explore and figure out the things that work for them, whether it's belief systems or diets or nutrition or whatever it might be. But beyond all that, I want them to know that they literally can change the world. Like they are capable of everything.
Yeah.
Massive things that they can't even comprehend, they can do. 100%. And that's what's so cool about, like, you know, your experience is, you know, not eating for 10 days. It feels so impossible, but you did it. You know what I mean? And that's got to give you some level of, like, there's obviously the other kind of more spiritual takeaways from it, but there's also just the knowing that you did hard stuff. Not talking for 21 days and, like, you know, going on that retreat or...
it's the unknown.
Yeah. And, like, exploring the unknown takes courage.
Yeah.
And then, no, it excites others to do their version of it, too, I think.
I see.
You know, like, what is the thing that people have been curious about trying to see if it works for them or not? You're out here trying.
I mean, so you're saying it's synergistic. Like, you feed into yourself and, you know, carving out that time for yourself makes you better.
So I can be a better dad.
And then by byproduct, they're seeing, you know, it's crazy to run 100K or, you know, 24 hours of straight running. Who does that? Okay, I seen someone, like, you know, when you see someone do something just like, what the hell are you doing? Then you might, you know, people might tell you like, hey, what, you know, your mom, dad, what are you doing?
I think I legitimately scare my mom sometimes. Like, legitimately. Probably too far on that end of the spectrum, but yeah, it's the same thing as not eating for 10 days.
I see.
You know what I mean? Same explorations.
Yeah,
for sure. So tell me about then, you know, from you obviously, you know, you're the personal training, the physical training side of things for you. I think it's fascinating because I want to know how all of these experiences have kind of impacted your approach to, you know, personal training and the body and movement and things like that. Because, well, you're by no means traditionally trained. You know what I mean? In a great way. I mean that in the most amazing way. But talk to me about how these practices of exploration, how they impact your approach to personal training and, you know, your work with your clients and the way that you pay your bills.
Yeah. So mastery mindset. If I'm going to do it it takes 10 years to be a master and to, have full access to learning how to do something. So my education, so you asked me, certified personal trainer, I'm technically not. So a CPA, you study for 3 months, you take a test, and then you're a certified personal trainer. My certification, you can't take the test unless you graduate, unless you have a bachelor's in exercise science. So 4 years, and then you take, you study for 6 months, take this test, and then you get your practicum experience. One thing which I'm finding is lost in today's world is I had an apprenticeship through my training. I did not get paid for 2 years and just did it for the love of it, and had the most incredible mentor to just give me the big picture to F up with, to see him, see the things that he's okay with effing up with because he's got bigger things in mind. I think apprenticeships are lost in today's just society.
Yeah.
So I really, I would go to class and learn, anatomy, and then go to what this class has set me up for, the job that I'm looking for out of this class, and say, 80% of this doesn't fucking matter at all. So I'm walking this educational and practical experience, just this unique environment. One thing that was specific, I would want to train with, I'm going on a tangent, but I would want to train with the football team, the track team. Like, I would want to do all the big stuff. My mentor would say, you're going to work with this injured athlete coming from post-op. I need you to just give him singular focus, work with athletic trainers. So in that process, even though I wasn't getting like the fun, team experience, I was learning how to take someone from, pre-op, post-op to Division I athletics as fast as possible. And I needed to learn like every stage of that process. What did the doctors tell you to do? What did the trainers tell you to do? All right, he showed me it, if you can do this, then you can do this. Kind of, I just learned the full a full apprenticeship. And then after 4 years of training at Colorado State, strength conditioning, I put all of it to the test, and I told Fort Lewis, hey, I'm going to volunteer for a semester in the expectation that you see the value of having a strength coach for everybody. So put all that to use, worked with 250, 300 athletes, and just got to know how the body moves.
That was volunteer to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Straight up on a limb. Dad, what the hell are you doing? I'm so confident that I can do this for this program that, I'm just going to do it.
Wow.
So
how have you been able to afford all this? But because money matters, and I know that I don't want to don't tell me about your finances necessarily, but that is I think remarkable and really unique. I mean, obviously, the travels, you're away from work for a really long time, or you're doing the travels or the fast or the silent retreat or whatever, but even volunteering for a whole semester at at the athletic program, has money never really been so are you chasing the dollar? I mean, are you
two parts to that question? No, I at this point, it's like I have the confidence that I can go make whatever amount I
can make
want.
it if you need to. Yeah.
I just have I call it a supreme confidence that I can do that. On the other side, I'm not confident how low I can go, how sane I can stay not making money. So one, it's a challenge. It's a unique challenge. I'm kind of in a
because we also, for everyone listening, especially, it is not cheap to live in Durango.
Oh, fuck.
It's expensive to live here.
Yeah. So, I guess concretely, Durango is a place where, hard as hell to live, but once you know the right people, it just helps you stay
Takes care of
afloat.
each other. Yeah.
So I guess I big Napoleon Hill, from 18 to 25. Napoleon Hill, all the self-help books, invest in yourself and you'll reap the benefits. Like you'll do whatever you want from that. So, coming out of college, just I kind of had confidence that if I invest in who I am, I will like attract what I need.
And no one can ever take it away.
And yeah,
It's a great investment.
yeah. So I guess that's the philosophy. And then there's another point in my mind that I forget at the moment, but you could say I've sacrificed a lot, like finding a woman. Like I've put myself in, I've lived in a closet for 4 years, paying $250 a month, just living in what's considered a closet.
Right.
I've found the right people to let me, encroach in their space and just make it work. Like I said, I do not make a lot, and I choose to do that. It's so weird to say. I feel weird every time I say it, but I kind of, I don't know how it works. I used to work all the damn time, from 5 a.m. till sometimes midnight. I'd go from school, football practice to Office Max, restocking shelves, and then wake up and do it the next day. And I also would rather, sit down and read a book versus pick up, 3 more clients.
Right.
It's kind of
So
sacrifices.
when it comes to that, for lack of a better term, that formula, like the equation that works for you,
Less is more.
less is more.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
It's different. It's just different. I almost see like more is easy. But you quickly figure out more is it's a lot.
Well, and there's no, like, when's enough?
When's enough?
You know what I mean? Like I told you, I've talked about it a few times in this conversation. Like I have a tendency of tying my self-worth to my accomplishments. And I'm found that is fleeting. Like I'll get a big thing done, or I'll be proud of myself and excited for a little bit, and then it's like I got to go get something again. And so I love that ability or that perspective of that, less is more, and framing it as a different type of challenge. I think is really cool because that's something that I think would help me find fulfillment in it. That like it's a different.
Yeah.
It's a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah.
Finding these things. And I definitely we've got a small house, me and the whole family. And I mean, there's parts of my life that I definitely see that in, but I don't know, that less is more, and thinking of it as a challenge, I love.
I mean, what is it like the more you get? I'm curious, just in general, like, what is that for? Like, how are you managing more is more? Like, if you put more into your business is going to need you more.
Right.
How do you work with that?
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, you just do more. You keep doing, more leads to more, but it's tiring. Like I'm worn out a lot of the time. Like whether it's but a lot of it really fills me up too. So there's some balance there for sure. Like I like to volunteer on the fire department, which is time exhaustive. It takes a lot of energy, and I'm not getting paid for that. But that I think is part of that more. Like it's important to me that I'm volunteering and giving back and doing those things that kind of fill me up in that way too.
Yeah.
So it is wild, like you've mentioned, kind of both of those extremes. It's like there is a lot in the tank. Like there is a lot we can that we can give, however, not without rest. and how important the rest and the recharge and that side of it is. So I'm starting to find some balance pretty good. Like Sundays are genuinely rest days, like sincere rest days.
Oh hell yeah!
Physically, emotionally, work wise. Like Sundays, we hang with the family and we rest. I mean, sometimes I literally, my feet are up, like literally, sometimes for quite a while.
Yeah.
So there definitely is like some of that balance that occurs, but I for sure default to the other end, the further end of that spectrum. Like running a marathon is not enough. I got to run 100 miles.
So on that note, and I'll go back to like my training philosophy. I kind of got lost a little bit. How do you strength train?
Yeah.
With all that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you too. I'm primarily an endurance athlete. I mean, most of what I do is run.
Yeah.
I would consider myself a hybrid now.
Oh hell yeah!
I strength train 3 days a week. On Mondays I do push-ups, pull-ups, and squats.
Mondays we Murph.
Every Monday I Murph. So every Monday I do 200 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, 300 squats in a weighted vest, and then I run 2 miles.
Gotcha.
On Wednesdays I do more of like Olympic style barbell. I do power clean, shoulder presses, and stuff like that.
Loaded,
lift a little bit heavy. Yeah. Less volume, heavier weights. I'll do like weighted dips, kettlebell squats, stuff like that on Wednesdays. And then Fridays I do push-ups, pull-ups, and squats again.
Gotcha.
So I'm doing some strength training, Dwayne, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough, but I'm doing some strength training. And what I found is that it's helping me stay healthier for running. When I first trained for my first 100 miler, I ran too much, and I could feel it. Like I felt weak.
Yeah.
I just felt weak. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but I felt a little bit weak, and then I ended up getting injured. So now I'm prioritizing strength training more, and I think I'm flirting with, big enough mileage running wise, but
balancing out with strengthening the body so that you can do all that.
Right.
And that's so funny you say endurance athlete, hybrid athlete, strength power athlete is the other end of the scale. Out of clients say, yeah, you're talking with a guy who started playing football and now is an endurance athlete. Like that's a hell of a transition to go from, football.
Looking at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so props there. Totally different mindsets. But I'm building an app right now that classifies workouts as endurance athlete, hybrid athlete, and strength power athlete.
Cool.
And so strength training, just the field, there's so much out there. Most people are bodybuilding. If you have a leg day, if you have a chest day, if you have any type of, specific day, you're going to have favorites. Your body, you can never go out on a hike and just say, I'm only going to use my legs. Like everything's always going. So ideally you train in that same fashion, turn everything on, make it work synergistically, and then, do the fun stuff outside the four wall, outside the weight room.
Yeah. I think that's why I love Murphing so much. For one, it's hard as hell. And it's never gotten easier. I've Murphed at least weekly since the pandemic. At least once a week I do the Murph. But it's that whole body, like my whole body gets it, And I don't know, there's something like when I'm done Murphing, I feel like I'm at my best.
I have a philosophy on that. There's the continuous mindset and then there's the concrete mindset. Training your brain to, no matter at what level I approach this, no matter what level I'm going, I need to keep going. There's no other question about it. That is a whole mindset that you're tapping into when you work out. On the other side, I'm going to get this task done, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to lift this weight, rest for a second. I'm going to accomplish this. So there's concrete ways of accomplishing, and then there's continuous ways of accomplishing. I try to make it as simple as possible. Your body can squat, it can hinge, it can push, it can pull, and then you have 5 accessories. The accessory movements are carrying, crawling, hanging from a bar, and then rotation. All movement stems from these 5 basic movements. So every time you go into the weight room, ideally You squat, you hinge, you push, you pull, and then you do an accessory. If I can simplify it to that, doesn't matter if you're doing a back squat, goblet squat, whatever type of squat, do that. Hinge, not bending at the legs, but just bending at the waist.
The hips, yeah.
How many people know how to turn on your low back? It's a whole language of teaching. And it's kind of weird. The more in touch you are with the body, the more you feel like, oh, my hip is kind of tweaked. Like, what's going on there? Or my shoulder feels it. An untrained body doesn't have those sensors at all.
Yeah.
It's just going to like, trick a switch and then you're gone for 4 weeks.
Right.
But when you're tapping into your body's basic movements, you're going to know like, okay, my hip is feeling this way. My hips are just weak. Like it's self-checking. And it kind of sucks because the more aware you are of your body, the more it's going to talk to you. And
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on today?
Yeah.
But it's not as dramatic. So with my training, no matter how you build it, after you do it for a while, it's like, just move. I say first things with my training, if you can walk for 20 minutes, then we can work. If you can't just carve out enough time and headspace to walk for 20 minutes, there's probably other things to approach before
other things to solve first.
Yeah. So then it's learning the language of movement. I just got 3 points, 3 pro tips. T-spine. So do this with me.
Okay.
Squeeze your shoulder blades back, drop them an inch, and then tuck your ribs in and head back. That should feel awkward as hell.
Yeah.
That is proper posture, head, neck, and shoulder alignment. If you are going, let's say 1 rep with this posture will spare you, 2 hours out of the day. 30 reps with this posture awareness will give you, a day and a half of your body knows where it's supposed to be.
Right.
Just perfect practice. Giving your body like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be done. I know I'm going to do this, but I also know, I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, 1, no matter what you do, and it applies to everything.
Now I'm all aware of my posture while we're talking.
See how long you can hold it.
Challenge accepted.
So that's like a principle no matter what. You can T-spine with every single activity. And I'm going to harp the shit out of it because you doing 100 squats like this versus doing 100 squats like this.
Right.
A bodybuilder will tell you, yeah, now, my shoulder, after 700 reps, my shoulder shot.
Right.
But I didn't know that until, my physical therapist told me I can't do, I need to. So just my thing, posture. The second part is feet. I can look at your feet and dictate 90, safe bet would be 75, but I'd say 90% of your technique comes from your feet. And the tripod foot, weight under your big toe, weight under your ankle, weight under your pinky toe. If you can do that, your body is going to use both sides of your body harmoniously. If you're on your toes, you're going to use your quads and your knees. If you're on your heels, you're going to use your ass and your hips and all that. Let's use all of it. So your feet's going to dictate it. Your posture is going to keep you going forever. And then your breath. It's hard to ask someone to be aware of their breath. So I just have them hold water in their mouth and then tell them to do squats holding the water. Yeah. And you have to breathe in.
Love that.
Forced meditation is the best meditation. But ideally, the highest trained athlete, they're not pushing themselves to the max. They're not taking it easy. They know like, oh, I'm kind of losing my focus because I'm so tired. Let me bring it down. Let me slow this game down strategically.
Right.
The more you train, the more you know my breath is out of control. Chances are my knees are going to start wobbling. If you don't have control of your breath, chance of injury is going to skyrocket. If you are in a decent flow and not holding your breath at the bottom of a squat, chances are you're going to be operating your entire system the way you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So, and this runs for everything. Like, yeah, no matter what you do, golf, rock climb, ski, balance to your feet is a thing, posture is a thing, and breath keeps you. So
Love it.
that is like what makes kind of me. And then when it comes to the movement, just keep going. Yeah. Fitness is a tricky deal. There's so much there.
That's why you're here. That people need you.
Yeah.
Dwayne, thank you so much for being here and for, letting me pick your brain a little bit. And
It's good to catch up.
yeah, and I just want to tell you thanks for having the courage to explore, and then for having the fortitude to take those explorations and apply them into your business and your skill set with your personal training and all of that stuff. Because I think that you bring such a unique perspective and energy to it that's refreshing, and I think that so much of that has come from these life experiences and, helping people move and like meditate, can't think of anybody else that would make you put water in your mouth while you squat.
Yeah.
But it's just awesome. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking the time today to, let me pick your brain and all of that. But more than that, thank you for the impact that you're having on others through your willingness to explore the rest of life and the world and all of that stuff. It's refreshing. And I think that the world needs more of it. And I wish, something that I'm hoping for, that I can find a little bit more of that courage to
Do less.
Yeah.
Less
Or at
more.
least explore, and see what's out there. Because I think that that's such it's such a cool perspective that you have and that you bring to the table, and just like being unapologetically you is amazing. So I've got my Inspired by Example shirt for you, because you really are, Dwayne. You're just inspiring by living the life that you're living, marching to the beat of your own drum, and doing all the things. And I just hope that it's noticed, and the world needs more of it. So thank you for doing it.
Happy to help. And I have to say, you might cut this, but your energy is comfortable. When we were freshman year, in the dorms, I'm not the partier. So you and I forget, it might have been Corey. No, you introduced me to a gallon of wine and just hanging out in the dorm and just chilling. Like, not needing to do the most, just enjoying each other's company. And like, I don't think I can communicate how cool it is just to have a place, an energy that's not, expecting all these things from you. It's just like, hey, we're here, let's vibe, keep doing what we do. And then I also want to say, when you connected me, it was years back, I was like, hey, how do I survive in Durango? And you said like, hey, there's this group that will just get you out there. I think it will be of value. And I said, I'm going to trust it. And that has laid such a foundation for me. So it's like what you're doing, the people that need it will see that like you're a source to work with. Like you're not going to get beat up or judged or any of that stuff. Just a genuine, we're all out here trying to figure it out. And, it's nice when you have people that'll just give you, that will lend a hand.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah. It's so easy. I'm looking at you like, man, Ascent Digital. Are you kidding me? I see this. Everything going on. And, we see each other at the gas station. We're like, hey, man, what's up? It's that type of connection that, keeps the whole thing, rolling.
In each other's corners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And always will be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.